Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast, episode 188, Hall of Fame results. We have a lot to cover tonight. I'm Nick. We have Harrison, as always. How are we doing, Harrison?
Fantastic. How we doing, Nick?
Pretty good. I'm not too upset with who got elected. I'm more, well, I mean, we'll get into it, but I think the three that got elected are deserving, very much so.
Agreed.
But yes. All right. So we'll hop into it. But first, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram and Rumble. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, our affiliate links with Dick's Sporting Goods, MLB Shop, and Lids. You can find these links on all of our socials. If you are going to buy products through these companies, please do it through us. It helps us support without us asking you directly for moolah. All right. Yep. All right. So here we go. Jumping right in. Baseball Hall of Fame class 2025. Results came in about 6 p.m. tonight. Who's in? Who's out? Who are the snubs? So, leading off, Ichiro Suzuki. 99.7% of the vote. Here we go.
Tragic.
I mean, these stats are utterly ridiculous for his career. I split it up in the Japan stats and his MLB stats. Remember, guys, this is the Baseball Hall of Fame. This is not the MLB Hall of Fame, right? So his 4,367 hits should count for the Hall of Fame status, right? If you want to split it up on his plaque, whatever, but this is the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's not the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. The fact this dude is not unanimous blows my mind. I don't understand it.
There's nothing to understand. Not voting for him is a tragedy. And we've said it a million times, for when writers don't vote for somebody who gets more than 90% of the vote from their peers, they should have to explain why. You should have to justify not putting them on the ballot. Because when 99.7% of the voters, so everybody but you, voted for Ichiro, why didn't you? What explanation could you possibly come up with that would justify not voting for Ichiro when every single other writer did? It's the same, Derek Jeter got 99.7% of the vote. I'd love to understand who didn't vote for him and why. You should have to come out and give a justification as a requirement to keep your credential. Otherwise, you should not be voting because you clearly do not get baseball.
Yeah. If you're in the chat and you have anything to add to the Hall of Fame discussion, definitely let us know.
Jump in.
Yeah, and we'll throw it on the show and all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, 4,367 career hits in both leagues. Say what you want about Japan being like the AA equivalent or whatever, but his totals over there were ridiculous. He had 2 seasons where he hit over 385. I mean, even in that AA pitching standards, that's still really freaking good. And then he didn't come over here until he was 27 years old, for crying out loud. And then I'll just casually put up 3,000 hits, broke the single season hit record, won Rookie of the Year and MVP in his rookie season. I don't understand how you leave him off the ballot unless it was just a flat out mistake.
Yeah, it's either a flat out mistake. You gave a vote to somebody else who you thought was really deserving. I do think there are situations where writers have said, hey, look, I didn't vote for so-and-so because I knew they were going to get in, but I voted for this other player in hopes they'd stay on the ballot long enough to get in. Like, I've seen that before, but I don't understand how you can throw that vote away and not vote for Ichiro when literally every single other writer that cast a ballot did. Yeah. And how you could ever look at his numbers and just say, yeah, he's not a Hall of Famer. Like, there's no scenario.
Yeah. So we talked about Barry Bonds and Bud Selig. I actually did a writing piece on it this week. I was at the point where I'm like, no steroid guys should be in the Hall of Fame, right? No steroid guys at all. until they elected Bud Selig, the commissioner, who looked like this while it was happening. And yeah, like nothing to see here. I don't see what's going on. And he's in the hall and he's celebrated for saving the game during that time. When you put the commissioner of the league during that era in, I think it should open the gates for the other guys to get in. That's just me. I was against it. Like, yes, they shouldn't go in. But as soon as you celebrate the leader, the commander in chief, to get into the hall, then they should get rewarded too. And let's be honest, like, yes, I know it's the Hall of Fame and museum, but all these guys like Pete Rose and Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, all their stuff is in the Hall of Fame anyways. They celebrate these guys anyways. Right. So like, what's a plaque at that point? If you want to put an asterisk next to it, sure. But as soon as you let Bud Selig in, you have to start letting steroid guys in. That's just me.
Or
I was 100% against it. Not anymore.
Or at this point, put a separate wall. These are, this is the steroid era wall, and these players are in the Hall of Fame, but they're on the steroid era wall just to asterisk that whole era of baseball. Like they belong in there. And one of the comments in the chat from NYC Slots, like Ichiro, clearly one of the best bat to ball hitters I've ever seen, and I would agree. I mean, there were very few players I've ever watched that could literally like just pick a spot and put it there. If you shaded them one way, he'd go the other direction. If you needed the sac fly, he hit one. You needed the home run, he'd hit one.
Yeah.
I mean, there were literally times when the team needed a 3-run home run, and he would just go up there and yank one out. You're going to be hard pressed to find too many players in history that had better bat control and the ability to do whatever the hell they wanted than Ichiro.
Yeah. And I hope that this missed vote is literally just a mistake. Like, I just flat out forgot to check his box. Like, but the public ones all have Ichiro. So this was a private vote. So it's closed vote. No one can see. So someone left him off just to not be unanimous. My guess, this is just me spitballing, was a New York writer to make sure that Mariano Rivera was still the only unanimous vote. That's me just completely talking nonsense, but
no, it's
who knows at this point. Baseball writers need to go away.
Yeah, we've heard lots of theories about why guys don't vote for people that are clearly going to get in, and there could be some gamesmanship there, which is I want to protect my boy Mariano, and it could have been I want to make sure so and so gets a vote so they don't get none or fall off the ballot because I really like them. And I mean, I get what they do, but when you're the only guy that doesn't vote for a player like Ichiro, it doesn't make you look good.
I don't. You can check as many boxes as you want. It's not like, oh, hey, you only have 4 votes, right? You have to pick the best 4. Like, you can check off all the boxes if you want to. There's no excuse for it in my eyes. So, but yeah, John, I know being out there in Seattle, I know you're got to be a huge Ichiro guy. But yeah, I mean, he would say that he could hit home runs whenever he wanted. He just wasn't that type of player. I mean, how many infield hits did that guy have in his career? I would say probably almost a third of them were infield hits because he would just slap it to that shortstop hole and beat it out.
Yep. But I love some of the old clips of him, like in batting practice. Guys like, hit a home run to right, and he yank one to right. Go to center, he hit one to center. Go to left center, hit one to left center. Like,
yeah,
he could do whatever he wanted. And then I remember, when Ichiro first came over, people were like watching his pregame routine. Like, he had the pressure point stick, and he had all these things that he would do before games that everybody thought was weird. And by like his second or third season, like other players were like, okay, like tell me how I do that because I want to do that too. It's making you a better hitter.
Yeah, Seattle actually just came through Bleacher Report that they're retiring Ichiro's jersey on August 9th. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, knew that was coming at some point here, but
yeah. And the video today of Ken Griffey Jr. welcoming him to the hall was really cool.
Yeah, he's like thanks, George. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I hate the whole baseball writing process. We've talked about it. We've kicked that dead horse, but there's no reason why this guy shouldn't be unanimous. This is
No.
He's got the most career hits ever. If you combine both leagues.
Yeah.
And if he came over here at 18, I don't know what kind of totals we would see out of him, but crazy. 500 stolen bases too. I mean, his speed was something to deal with. And we haven't even talked about his defense.
Yeah. Last time I checked, he had a pretty good arm. Dude would just hose people from right field on command.
Yeah.
There wasn't much he couldn't do. He could steal bases. He could hit for average. He could just create chaos. He had great range and incredible arm.
Yeah.
I mean, he made it look easy. He made the game look easy.
Yeah. So,
well, yeah, John, his warm up where he would just throw foul pole to foul pole and just throw laser beams.
Yeah.
I remember catching him one time, watching him play one time at Fenway, and he was out in right field by Pesky's pole, throwing balls off the monster, to whoever's playing left field that night. So I got used to reading balls off the monster. Like it was wild what he could do, and he just threw absolute darts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just don't understand it. He's 100% in my eyes. I actually, when I was filling out the slideshow earlier, I put unanimous next to his name because I didn't think there was any chance that anyone would leave him off the ballot.
I didn't think they could screw that up, but they did.
Could not believe it. But all right, next guy in with the next highest vote, Sabathia, 86.8% of the vote, 251 and 161 win-loss record. A little bit higher in the ERA that I would like to see, but 3.74. This is a staggering number, 3,577 innings pitched during that time. 1.25 whip, and then we got the 6-time All-Star, 1 Cy Young Award. I did mention before we came on, it was a trivia question. I think last year we put it out there that who led the league, both leagues in shutouts in the same year, and it was CeCe when he went from the Cleveland Indians to the Brewers. So he actually pitched shutouts in both leagues and led the leagues in shutouts. So it was kind of cool. But how do you feel about this selection? First time on the ballot getting in.
Yeah, so my initial reaction was when we went down the list of people to get in this year, my initial reaction was no, he wouldn't get in this year. To me, CeCe is not a clear-cut Hall of Famer. He's in the Hall of Very Good to Hall of Fame. 251 wins, certainly impressive, but he played in a lot of good teams. 3.74 ERA, not a super impressive stat. I mean, he had a lot of years with a 4.5 plus ERA. He had a 4 or 5 year stretch where he was absolutely dominant. Other than that, he was a pretty average pitcher most of his career. 1.25 whip, really high. And only a 6-time All-Star in all the seasons that he played. So, like his numbers don't jump off the page that like this is definitely a Hall of Famer. Does he deserve it? Yeah, I'm not going to say he doesn't. But to me, he was not a clear-cut Hall of Famer. He definitely wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. I thought he would take a few cycles. I don't hate that he got in, but he's the one I kind of look at and go, maybe a little early, maybe a bit of an inflated vote, but I can't disagree. You can make an argument either way.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt that he was good and really good for stretches. And John, you're right. I think the playoff stuff's also a big reason why. But he's also likable. Like he's a member of the Gentlemen's Club. Like let's call it how it is. Big
personality, friendly guy.
Right. No off the field issues that we know of. So, but yeah, I mean, CeCe was a gamer. Even when he coming up, even in the Indians, somehow the Sox got by that series because CeCe was pretty good in that series. But yeah, I didn't think he would get this high. I thought if he got in this first, he would be down around like the high 70s mark. 86.8 is a pretty decent percentage for the first time being on the ballot.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good first ballot showing. I mean you do not see a lot of guys get 85% or more of the vote on the first try. So, I mean, clearly the voters value him higher than I do. But like I'm looking at his stats, like in half of his career seasons, he was a 4+ ERA.
Yeah.
And he a ton of years, 11 and 10, 12 and 11, 13 and 11, 9 and 12, 6 and 10. Like he had a stretch in 2000 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11. 5-year stretch where he was, you know, ERA of roughly 3, won a boatload of games, and that was really his most dominant stretch. He won his Cy Young that first season in Cleveland of that stretch. Otherwise, he was pretty average.
Yeah.
But those 5 years were really, really good.
So, what team does he wear on his cap? He won a World Series with the Yankees, but he started obviously everything with the Indians. So, does he go in with the Cleveland Sea or the Chief Wahoo maybe? Or does he go New York Yankees?
I mean, he spent 11 of his 19 years in New York. He was in Cleveland for 8, so not like a small chunk of his career, but he spent more than half his career in New York. I have to imagine between the time he spent there, the history and legacy of New York, and the World Series ring, I have to imagine he goes in as a Yankee.
But where was he better statistically wise? I know that's probably not going to matter to him, but
I mean, I think when you look at the body of work, he was about the same because he had the first couple of years of his dominance were in Cleveland, and then New York picked up the rest.
yeah.
So, and otherwise, he was pretty standard. So, I would say, looking at the numbers, he was about the same pitcher between the two of them.
Yeah, I would like to see him go in as an Indian because that's where he got his start. That's
I think
where...
he should go in as a Brewer and throw everybody off.
Whatever, do it. But yeah, me personally, I hope he goes in as an Indian because that's where he got started. That's where he started the dominance. So that's my hope with CC. But yeah, 86.8% of the vote, definitely not a slouch in that department. So,
well, and I think to your point, I think the time in Cleveland means a lot to him.
yeah,
I don't think that's a place he wanted to leave. I just think it didn't work out for him to be able to stay. So maybe he will. Maybe he will go Cleveland. I mean, when you look at the career, he was the same in both.
Yeah.
Numbers wise, I mean, obviously more wins in New York because of more seasons. But like literally almost exactly the same ERA, almost the same WAR. I mean, he was very much split his career between the two, and either one would make sense.
Yeah. All right. And then the third guy getting in the Hall of Fame, thank freaking God, Billy Wagner.
Only took 10 years.
Last year on the ballot. His Hall of Fame phone call. I love that they're recording these guys when they get the call because
it's amazing.
It is all those years of hard work and dedication and finally getting the recognition from your peers. And very well deserving. And Billy Wagner couldn't put a word together. Like he's just bawling.
He was struggling.
Absolutely. And I can't say that I wouldn't be either.
No,
if I ever got that call.
I loved it. I mean, it was just pure, and he knew it was his last shot in the ballot. He finally got in. Like that's got to have been 10 years of hell. Every year hoping that call came and it didn't.
Yes, John, amen to this statement. About time. Absolutely. I mean, a 2.31 ERA and 903 innings pitched. Yeah, it's not a ton if you look at the grand scheme of things, but that's a lot of games because he's coming in from one inning and he's just mowing people down. Only gave up 601 hits in his career. I mean, he was number. Yeah, he was unhittable.
Gave up 82 home runs in his career.
Yeah. And a below 1 whip. Yeah, it was about time. He should have. I thought we were pushing hard last year for him to get in. And the year before that, he should have been in a long time ago. And we do talk about like what the standard is for relievers and closers because it's hard, right? Because they don't have the big accumulative numbers unless you have that 400 save mark.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, 400 saves seems to have been kind of the magic number for closers. And John, your comment, should have been in 3 to 5 votes ago. I mean, probably should have. I think the
Yeah.
problem is, and I'm guilty of this, I think the closer position is one of the most overrated positions in baseball. It's a guy who comes in, gets 3 outs. I get that they're high leverage outs, but the value of the save is just so high. And so
Yeah.
many of the guys that are in there, they're out there as closers. I mean, they're a different animal. They're a very unique breed of pitcher that goes and does that.
Yeah.
But for example, Billy Wagner threw 903 innings in his career. CC threw 3,500 innings.
Right.
Like, who's more valuable in that time frame? Well, CC clearly, because he's just giving you more. Billy Wagner was dominant in the short amount of time that he was actually on the mound, but I struggle with the closer position just being really overrated. So to me, the closer's got to be that much better for me to be like, oh yeah, they're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But given that, Wagner's Hall of Famer, but that the problem with that is that also then makes Craig Kimbrell a Hall of Famer, and I struggle with Kimbrell because he's been wildly erratic his whole career. It also makes Kenley Jansen a Hall of Famer.
Right.
And I look at the body work for Kenley Jansen and just go, man, like, I don't think of Kenley Jansen and Craig Kimbrell as Hall of Famers. Statistically, they are. I mean, they are, and they likely will be. But I look at what they do, and they are two very erratic closers that have put up numbers.
Yep.
So
And
closer's just a hard position for me.
yep. And the one stat I didn't put in here was saves, and he had 422 of them. So maybe we talked about it. We're like, what is that, automatic number for the Hall for saves? And we were thinking, is it 400? Is it 500? Is it 450? What is that like magic number, right? If you hit 3,000 hits, you're in the Hall of Fame. You hit 500 home runs, you're in the Hall of Fame. You hit, 1,800 plus RBIs, you're usually in the Hall of Fame. What's the 300 wins for a pitcher? You're in the Hall of Fame, which we'll never see again. But
yeah,
what's the magic number for cumulative saves? That way, it's like automatic. You're in the Hall.
Yeah, and I think for closers, it's got to be 400 saves. I feel like that is the number. I mean, he's 8th all time at 422.
Yeah,
which is pretty damn good. But he's also got Jansen and Kimbrell ahead of him.
Who else is on that list?
All-time saves?
Yeah.
I just had it up. Let me get it back up.
So you got Rivera, you got Hoffman, 1 and 2. Then you would have Lee Smith, maybe is up there.
Yeah, Lee Smith is 3rd. I got it right here. So you're okay. So your top 10 saves leaders. Number 1, Mariano Rivera, 652. Number 2, Trevor Hoffman, 601. Number 3, Lee Smith, 478. Number 4, Kenley Jansen, 447. Number 5, Craig Kimbrell, 440. Number 6, Francisco Rodriguez, who was on this ballot and got like no votes at 437. Number 7, John Franco, 424. Number 8, Billy Wagner, 422. And then round out the top 10, number 9, Dennis Eckersley at 390, but he's also a starter.
Right.
And then number 10 is Joe Nathan at 377.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it is that 420 mark. That 420 mark might be the magic number. Right? Because now you're right. Jansen and Kimbrell have to get in at this point. Maybe not first ballot, but I mean K-Rod's up there too, but he's not getting any consideration. So
yeah, K-Rod got like no votes on this ballot. I mean,
yeah,
he's got more saves than Wagner, and he got like no votes.
Yeah.
So closer's a weird one. It really is just a weird one.
Yeah, and middle relief guys, like I don't even know where you start with middle relief guys. Like you said, wait till the hold stat becomes huge. I don't know, but I am glad he's in because he was a dominant reliever. He came in, it was lights out, it was game over. Everyone's going home.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, and he just threw absolute BBs.
Yeah, it was insane. All right, so let's get to the guys that were just out. Carlos Beltran out, 70.3% of the vote. Putting his accolades in here, I was like, damn, you almost forget how good Carlos Beltran was.
He was
279 batting average, 435 homers, 1,500 RBIs, 300 stolen bases, 70 WAR, Rookie of the Year. I mean, you guys can read. You can see what it says. I mean, but what do we have hanging over our heads?
With the trash can incident.
Yes.
And he's the one that has seemed to have paid the greatest price.
Right.
You know, he's basically been blackballed from front office jobs. He's been kept out of the booth. He's being kept out of the Hall of Fame because of it. And yet Alex Cora and AJ Hinch took a 1-year suspension and they're both back managing like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And yet Carlos Beltran continues to be the guy that has been basically labeled a cheater and kept out of baseball.
Yeah, he was hired as the Mets manager for about 5 minutes, and then they're like, "Oh, well, never mind." Like there was like a meme for a while where Carlos Beltran comes into an office, takes his hat off, puts it on a hat rack, and then takes the hat off the hat rack, puts it back on, and walks out the door. That was essentially what it was. Like,
yeah,
Mets had him hired, and then this all came out, and they said no thanks.
Yeah, and he's worn that worse than anybody.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand.
Yeah. These are interesting ones for me as well. How do you feel about J-Roll, Ryan Howard, and Chase Utley?
I mean, Chase Utley, I don't really feel like he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Rollins.
You don't think he's top 10 second baseman of all time?
I don't.
Okay.
I also don't think he's a very likable guy, which is also going to hurt his cause.
Right. Because
I mean, Chase Utley was a great second baseman. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, 1,885 career hits, you know, 259 career home runs. You look around, he's 6-time All-Star, 4 Silver Sluggers, won a World Series. You know, no Rookie of the Year, no MVP, no batting title. You know, less than 1,900 hits. Like, and he played 16 years. I mean, his 162 game average was 158 hits. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the numbers to back it up.
He doesn't. You know, I would say J-Roll has a more compelling argument. I mean, this is a guy that won an MVP, won 4 Gold Glove awards, won a Silver Slugger, 3-time All-Star, 2,455 hits, 231 home runs, career 264 hitter, you know, 48 WAR. I think Rollins has a better case than Utley.
Yeah.
But the difference is Utley's got a much higher WAR because he played better defense at a position that was pretty weak in that time frame.
Yeah.
But offensively, he wasn't the same kind of player.
Yeah. And then Ryan Howard, I mean, he was really good for a stretch, but he got 382 home runs, 258 batting average. So not really there. Only 1,200 RBIs. This might get him into the Hall alone. 12 stolen bases. I mean, that might do it.
Well, and the problem with Howard is he played 13 seasons. Like, he played 13 seasons, and really he missed 3 of them, most of 3 of them with injuries. He had 1, 2, 3, 4 years of 45 or more home runs, and otherwise he was okay. But and a guy that would defensively was wretched. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, career 14 WAR with the offensive numbers he had because he was a liability defensively.
Yeah. I mean, this is a fair point. I mean, it seems like the 500 home run mark is a benchmark to get into the Hall. Or, you know, there's guys like Fred McGriff that was 493 or 497, like right on the edge. Like, I mean, and listen, we are small Hall of Fame guys, but we're basing this on who they're letting in at this point.
Right.
Do you think personally, Buck, that Beltran is better than Harold Baines? Or is Harold Baines better than Carlos Beltran? To me, I don't know. I saw Baines towards the last half of his career, so I can't really speak to that. But I saw Carlos Beltran, and he was pretty damn dominant at his time there. I don't know. It is becoming the Hall of Very Good, and we recognize that.
Yeah, and I don't think we're saying that Carlos Beltran is a slam dunk Hall of Famer. I think he's got a better case than a lot of the other people on the ballot. But here's a guy who's a Rookie of the Year winner, 3-time Gold Glove, 2 Silver Sluggers, 9-time All-Star, you know, 70 career WAR, 2,725 hits. I mean, you get over 25 or 2,600 hits, you're getting serious consideration for the Hall. Stole more than 300 bags, drove in more than 1,500 runs. Like, the balance of his career is actually pretty damn good. Like, it's you could very much make an argument that he is a Hall of Famer. I would say he's a Hall of Famer over a lot of the people that have been let in the last several years.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think I am devastated if he's left out, and I'm
No.
I'm not upset if he's in. I think he's one of those guys that either way, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Beltran to me is like CC Sabathia. Are they clear-cut Hall of Famers? No. If they get in, I'm okay with it. If they don't get in, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You can make a case either way, and
Yeah.
they're not guys that I have a really strong feeling about one way or the other.
Right.
On the surface, I look at Carlos Beltran and go, damn, that's a pretty impressive career. Like, he should get some consideration. Do I think he's a clear-cut Hall of Famer? No. But his resume is pretty damn impressive.
70 WAR is more than sneaky impressive.
Yeah, 70 WAR that's not nothing.
Yeah, you look at the other guys that have gotten in, and they're in the 60s, I think. So 70 WAR is nothing to shake a stick at.
70 WAR's
we'll see.
Pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, this next guy, I know I have been in on it, so I'm sure, Buck, you're going to jump all over me on this one. But Andruw Jones out 66.2% of the vote. 254 batting average. I think that's why he's not getting the vote, because it's a low batting average, and it would be one of the lowest in the Hall. Not the lowest, but one of the lowest.
Yeah. Not a great batting average.
No, 400 home runs, 1,300 RBIs, 1,200 runs scored, 5-time All-Star, but the defense and center field. And before you jump on me about his offense and about the batting average, there are guys in the Hall of Fame for their defense. Ozzie Smith, Brooks Robinson. We've said it the last few weeks when we've been talking about leading up to this. There are guys in the Hall for their defense and their defense only. So, was Andruw Jones the best center fielder of that era?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I look at it this way. There's 3 players in baseball history, 3 players that have 400 home runs and 10 gold gloves. And they are Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., Andruw Jones.
And Mike Schmidt.
To me, that's case closed. I'm sorry, outfielders. I should say outfielders only.
Outfielders.
Yeah, outfielders only with 410. It's Andruw, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr. Pretty sure that's pretty good select company and should be a pass into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and winning does matter. Absolutely, winning championships matter. And well, I know you said it. I know you said it about the Phillies too, because they have a World Series championship in there as well. Like, I get it. It's the whole package. It's the whole career. It's not like regular season awards where it's like, oh, he's only a regular season Hall of Famer. He's not. They don't take playoffs into consideration, because they do.
But if winning matters, if winning is like key criteria, then take Ken Griffey Jr. out of the Hall of Fame. You can take so many guys out of the Hall of Fame because they didn't win, because they were just on teams that weren't good. Like, winning is it's such a team stat. You can't judge a player based on that alone. Because, like, Ken Griffey Jr. can't go out there and pitch and play center field and play second base and come out of the bullpen in the 9th. Like, you need 24, 25 other guys.
Yeah.
And that's what winning is. I mean, I would say there's plenty of guys that have gotten in the Hall of Fame with a whole boatload of rings that are not nearly as good as many of the other people in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Is winning important? Sure, it matters, but you can't judge a player based on that because they only control a small piece of that.
Right. It can't be the only number in the equation. But yeah, if you're a top 5 defender at your position all time, like Jones is, you should be in. John, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy made center field look like a walk in the park. He'd be camped underneath balls that you see guys laying out for because they just can't get to him.
And he played so frustratingly shallow that he stole so many base hits.
Yeah.
Because he could range back. Like, I remember watching him play going, oh my God, somebody just hit the ball over his head, but you couldn't. You couldn't get it over his head.
No. Yeah. Crazy impressive.
And he would rob all those line drives, all those broken bat bloopers. Like, would steal so many hits by being that close. Not only that, but like you could hit a base hit up the middle with a guy on second base. That guy was not scoring.
No. So I'm putting Andruw Jones in because of the defense aspect. One of the best defenders I've ever seen in my life. Yes, I've seen some great ones. Jim Edmonds, Ken Griffey Jr. I've seen some great center fielders. Andruw Jones is in that conversation for sure.
He changed the game. He changed the way you approach the game that day because he was in center field.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, do you think Beltran and Jones get in next year?
I think based on these votes, I think it's highly likely the two of them get in next year. I think Andruw Jones deserved to be in this year. Beltran, I'm not like married to the outcome there, so if he gets in or not, I don't necessarily really care. But I think based on the voting results we're seeing here, that they are highly likely to get in on the next vote.
And we will look at the ballot coming up for 2026, the first timers, anyways, and you'll see why I think both of them get in for sure, because the 2026 class is not very impressive.
No.
All right. The next four highest totals on this list. Chase Utley got 39.8% of the vote. Alex Rodriguez got 37.1%. You got Manny getting 34.3%. And then you got Andy Pettit at 27.9%. So, what are the chances that any of these guys get in, if any?
0.
I'm with you.
Next question.
Yeah.
Manny and A-Rod are never getting in because of the Peds. Pettit's never getting in because of HGH, and Chase Utley's never getting in because he doesn't have the numbers and he wasn't that liked. So,
yeah,
I think to me, Chase Utley is not a Hall of Famer. It's just, to me, it's clear that he's not a Hall of Famer. The other three guys are just going to get hosed because of the era.
Yeah. Do you think at any point Major League Baseball revisits the steroid guys, even after they're well off the ballot? Do you think they come back to this era maybe 40, 50, 60 years in the future, and the Veterans Committee is like, hey, like, we have to put these guys in because of what they did? Yes, we know they cheated, but it was such an era of dominance. Like, do they go back and put those guys in?
The only way it happens is if the Veterans Committee, picks up this issue and runs with it. Otherwise, no. So my hope is, as these guys begin to cycle through the Veterans Committee, because most of them are going to start to fall off the ballot. Bonds already has. After so many more years, the Bonds' name will go through the Veterans Committee. My hope is at that point in time, the Veterans Committee sees these names coming across and says, okay, let's stop the madness here and put these guys in. The writers didn't want to do it for fear of blowback and also just personal feelings. The only way to stop this is if the Veterans Committee does it. Do I think they'll do it? No. Do I hope they'll do it? Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel kind of like Pete Rose. This is going to be an issue that nobody wants to put their name on as the person that made it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Who cares? They cheated. They have rings. Like,
in reality, these guys put up stats, got paid, and they've got World Series rings. Like,
they don't care.
Cases, to some of them, the Hall of Fame is like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, look at the record books. I'm there, whether you want to put me in there or not.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of the players, unfortunately, do look at the Hall of Fame like that. Like, would it be nice to be in there? Sure. But they also see that it's gentlemen's club. Like, it's a select few. If we like you, you're in. If we don't like you, like, too bad. Like, we're not going to elect you. Like, which I absolutely hate as well. Like, it should be your sport's best players of all time. Like, I keep saying, I know there's a lot of circumstances around Rose and Bonds and Clemens and all that, but your sports Hall of Fame doesn't have the all-time career home run leader, the guy that won the most Cy Young awards, and the guy that has the most career hits in the MLB. They're not in your Hall of Fame. That's like the NHL keeping Wayne Gretzky out. It's like the NBA keeping Michael Jordan out, Kobe Bryant out, all those guys. Like, yeah, this one too. I agree with you 100%, John. Omar Vizquel was one of the best defensive guys you would ever see. And to get only 17% is an absolute shame. The guy is one of 4 major league players to steal a base in 4 separate decades and also to homer in 4 separate decades. Not many guys have done that. Omar Vizquel has done both. So I think he should get way more consideration.
Can we talk about 11 Gold Gloves too? Like, I mean,
yeah,
come on. I mean, the dude was a human highlight reel. Every freaking night on Baseball Tonight, he had a web gem and he did something crazy. And, you know, did the guy hit a lot? No, not really. He hit enough. Did he steal a ton of bases? Yeah, he stole a few. He stole 400 in his career. Not too bad. Did he walk a lot? Did he get on base a lot? Did he score a lot of runs? He did okay. He did all of that enough. But defensively, he changed games. Like the number of hits he took away, the number of runs he saved. Like I would love to see like a defensive runs saved metric for Omar Vizquel over his career. He must have saved friggin' hundreds of runs.
Yeah.
Probably saved more than he scored.
Yeah. And he's what, 60 years old now, and he still has lightning fast hands. Have you seen any of him when he's playing catch? You can't even see the ball.
57 years old. I mean, he's still guy could probably still go out there and strap him up and play probably second base for somebody.
Yeah, he plays with that like pocketless mitt, like it's literally just a pad, and you can't even see him redirect the ball into his throwing hand. It's absolutely ridiculous.
No,
top 3 defensive shortstop of all time. Interesting.
All right, I mean,
he's gotta be up there. You have, so I mean, we had the trivia question that went absolutely nuts this week about the most career assists for a shortstop. You got Ozzie Smith, Luis Aparicio, and then Vizquel was 3rd. I mean, it's hard not to put him there. Who else defensively would you rather have at short?
I mean, there's not a lot of. I mean, Omar Vizquel has the highest fielding percentage as a shortstop in baseball history.
Yeah,
like significantly. I mean, it's wild when you like actually look at his stats. You know, 22,960 innings played at shortstop, 984 fielding percentage as a shortstop, highest of all time.
Damn.
11 Gold Gloves. Like what he did. I mean, nobody other than Ozzie, really nobody did what he did.
No. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, Barry Larkin was an incredible shortstop, but not at this level. You can go way back in time to Luis Aparicio, but he was playing with, I think, a milk jug and a soft baseball. So who knows what that looks like? So, I mean, you can make a case. Omar Vizquel, worst case, is a top 5 shortstop all time defensively. He might be top 3.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just so good.
Yeah. I'm looking at an ESPN article right here. They're ranking the top 10 shortstops ever. And, they got Alan Trammell, Joe Cronin, Barry Larkin's number 8, Robin Yount's number 7. They have Smith all the way down at 6. Okay, I'm done with this list. They got Jeter at 5, Ripken at 4, Ernie Banks at 3, Alex at 2, Honus Wagner at 1. So that's like top overall, I guess, not just defensive. Okay. But I mean, I guess that would make sense why Jeter was 5 there, but if it was overall. But defensively, yeah, I'm putting Omar Vizquel there for sure. Absolutely. But
and you look at the numbers, like, and I think the hard part too is like Ozzie was a dominant shortstop in a time period where there weren't really a lot of other great shortstops. Like he was the show. Vizquel had a lot of other talented guys around him, but you look at the numbers. Vizquel, 11 Gold Gloves, Ozzie 13. Ozzie had a 262 career batting average. Omar Vizquel was 272. Ozzie had 2,460 hits. Omar had 2,877 hits. Like, you could make the case that Omar statistically was better than Ozzie in just about everything except for the Gold Gloves.
Yeah. And when we're up over 10, it shouldn't even matter at that point.
Well, and the other thing
we get it, dude. You're good.
Omar Vizquel's got 2,877 hits. He was 123 hits shy of 3,000. Like, are we not paying attention to that? I mean, I get it. The guy played forever. He played for 24 years.
Yep. But so did Craig Biggio to get his 3,000.
Right. I mean, so
You
like
know?
2877. I mean, and granted, Ozzy played 19 years, to hit 2460. So I mean, Omar scored more runs, drove in more runs, had more hits, more home runs, hit for a higher batting average, and had 2 fewer Gold Gloves. Like, you could make the case that if Ozzy's in, Omar should be too.
Yep. So unfortunately, I think he's going to be a Veterans Committee guy.
And they have to get that one right. Like, you can't
Yes.
let that one slide.
I agree. 1,000%.
Can't do it.
Yep. So,
because him getting 17% of the vote, I don't even know what the writers are looking at.
And I think some of these players too are also victims of the new guys coming in on the ballot, right? I mean, it's kind of where it happens to fall, right? Because like you're not gonna vote for Ichiro, well, unless you're that one person.
Then, right, exactly. For one person, yeah.
Right, but like some writers go like, "Oh, I'm only gonna vote for 4 people this year." Like they have like a predetermined number before they go because they want to keep the hall small or whatever their reasoning is, which I absolutely hate. You should just put who you think should go in the hall on the ballot. Yeah. Don't set yourself to a number. I think it's the stupidest thing ever.
If they qualify, check the box.
Exactly. I don't understand.
It's a simple exercise here, folks. Let's not overcomplicate it.
And listen, if I ever got the chance to vote for the Hall of Fame, I would let everybody know who I voted for. And I'd back it up. I don't understand the people that are doing this under the radar and then don't want their ballot publicized. They should be they should have to answer to why they picked them, for sure.
I love the writers that actually like publish their ballot. Like, hey, here's who I voted for. Here's why.
Yep.
Like this whole like secretive thing drives me crazy. And I love this point by John. When you get over 5 Gold Gloves, you're a defensive god. Yeah, the number of players in history with more than 5 Gold Gloves is such a small percentage of the overall players. That's a very select club. When you get more than 10, forget about it. I mean, you look at Andruw Jones with 10, Omar with 11. Like, it's dumb. Like you're at a level of like dumb.
Yep. Yeah. I don't get it. So yeah, back to the PED guys real quick. If you had to guess right now, do they ever get in?
I mean, ever's a long time. So do they ever get in? I at some point in time they have to get in. I think even Pete Rose has to get in. Will it be in our lifetime? Boy, I'd love to think so, but I don't know that anybody has the stones to go and take on this issue. They should. The Veterans Committee, which is headed by players, should pick up this issue and go with it. Because by the time these guys come around, a lot of those Veterans Committee guys may be guys from this era who are going to be like, no, I played with these guys. They belong in.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a good point. It's like we kind of have to put them in. It's time to get over it, and I think it is. It's far enough in the rearview mirror now, especially when they start to come around to the Veterans Committee. We're going to be 30 years removed, if not more at that point.
Yep.
Like the game's in, a good status right now.
It is. Well,
you can say what you want about the Los Angeles Dodgers. Go ahead.
Yeah. But, well, and the counterpoint to that whole thing about getting over it is like, John mentions, 10 people voted for Ian Kinsler. Like, why? Because you liked him? I mean, you can't look at his career stats and be like, boom, that dude's a Hall of Famer, put him in. Like that. These writers are voting from a personal agenda. Because there's no way you're looking at Ian Kinsler and going, oh yeah, 1,999 hits, 269 career batting average, 2 Gold Gloves, 4 All-Stars. Man, that guy dominated baseball. No, he did not. He was at the time, he wasn't even the best player on his own team ever. Let's not get carried away here.
Oh, this is interesting, John. I haven't heard this yet, but heard one guy who didn't vote for Ichiro was a disgruntled Japanese beat writer.
I heard the one guy who didn't vote for Ichiro actually thought he was coming out of retirement to sign with the Dodgers because he was a Japanese player.
I saw that too. It's terrible, but probably true.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. And we'll get to that too towards the end of the show here, but
that would be interesting if that really was what came of it, is that it's just somebody who had a bad moment or a bad memory or was just pissed at the world and took it out on Ichiro. But I actually like your theory, Nick, of this is a Yankees beat writer who's like, I'm protecting Mariano. Screw this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here is the Hall of Fame class of 2026. The first timers on the ballot here. So we got Ryan Braun, Shin Soo Chu. Say that 3 times fast. Shin
Yeah,
Soo
don't.
Chu, Edwin Encarnacion, Cole Hamels, Gio Gonzalez, Alex Gordon, Matt Kemp, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Daniel Murphy, Hunter Pence, Rick Porcello, and Neil Walker. Yeah. Are there anybody? Is there anybody on this ballot that gets any consideration?
I
I
mean,
have I have 2 names possibly, and one is very controversial, and that would be Ryan Braun.
yeah, and he won't get any consideration because he got
Admitted,
busted.
and he admitted to it.
So yeah, so I mean, he dug his own grave. So Ryan Braun to me is dead on arrival because that's just where we're at. Um, Cole Hamill statistically to me doesn't have the numbers to get in, but he has the kind of playoff credibility, and I think that's going to go a long way. He also got Cy Young votes in many seasons. I want to say 4 or 5 different seasons. So he got consideration a lot to be one of the top guys. I think Cole Hamels is going to get some votes, but I don't think he belongs in the Hall. 163 career wins. Just didn't pitch long enough. Everybody else is like, man, this is
Yeah,
really what we have to offer. I mean, Hunter Pence had a nice career, but he's not a World Series. He's not a Hall of Famer. He
yeah,
won a couple World Series, almost 2,000, almost 1,800 hits. Like, nice career, but not Hall of Fame. And
I
then
agree.
the one that makes me laugh out loud is Rick Porcello. Like, I just, Gio Gonzalez, God love him, but these guys are not anywhere close.
No. Yeah, I mean Rick Porcello has a Cy Young,
He
but
does.
yeah, that's it.
What a fluky season that was. I mean,
Yeah,
and the one guy I'll say is that, Nick Markakis had a sneaky good career. He was in Baltimore, then he kind of disappeared to Atlanta and just put up numbers year after year after year. Still not a Hall of Famer, but like he had a sneaky good career.
yeah,
But I look at that list, and the only guy I think is going to get any votes is Hamels, and I still don't think he makes it.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. I
That's
don't
a
think
really,
anybody.
really weak class.
Yeah. So that is why I think um, Jones and Beltran get in next year because of the lack of talent in this class. And maybe we do see Omar Vizquel's total jump
John
up a
wants us
little
to
bit.
start throwing people back on the ballot. Put Pete Rose on it. Put Shoeless Joe back on it. Let's put some names on it. But I mean,
Yeah,
you look at that, and I think you're right, Nick. I think because of the weak class coming in, I think that's going to give guys like Beltran and Jones a little boost. That might even give a guy like Vizquel and K-Rod a boost, because what's coming in is not nearly as good as what's already there.
yeah. I mean, I know Braun got hit with PEDs and all of that stuff, but I mean,
Yeah,
he
he's
was
toast.
right, but he was damn good.
Well, he
I
he
mean,
was, but it was another guy who was really good in a short stretch,
yeah,
and then otherwise unremarkable, and also missed so many games.
he did. He
I
missed a
mean,
ton.
my God, played 14 seasons, played 1,766 games in 14 years.
Yeah,
Um,
not a great number.
no, he averaged 125 games, 130 games. You could count on him missing a month
Yeah,
pretty much every season. But when he was healthy, he was damn good. 350 home runs in only 15 seasons or 14 seasons, 1,766 games. Not bad. 296 career batting average. Like, numbers are good. Won an MVP. What was it? Won an MVP. Was the rookie of the year. 6 All Stars, 5 Silver Sluggers. Like, put up numbers, but the balance of his career, you kind of go, all right. And then you throw the PEDs on top, and you're just like, yeah, well, he's dead on arrival.
yeah,
That's a vote going nowhere.
yeah. Yeah.
Moose the Sausage Race guys 2026.
So here's one for you. Edwin Encarnacion, does he get any votes? It's not
any votes?
I think he might get a couple here because he has the over 400 home runs. I mean, he's got the 260 average. That hurts. He's got
Yeah.
a 35 WAR, 1,800 hits. I mean, that to me, that's not Hall of Fame
And he's got a parrot on his shoulder.
all the time. Well, only after he hits a home run.
Right.
It comes down and lands.
424 times.
Yeah. I mean, he'll get votes, but I don't think he should. Like, he's not.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly not a Hall of Famer. And the other thing working against him too is 16 years, 8 in Toronto, 5 in Cincy, 2 in Cleveland, 1 in Seattle, 1 in Chicago, 1 with the Yankees. Like, nobody's like really attached to him.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz Jr.
Exactly. Like it's hard to get like the writers really excited about you when you played everywhere for just a little bit. These guys don't really, you don't get a lot of deep support. And what's interesting too with him is you look at the home runs and it's like from his age 29 season to age 36, he just hit a bunch of bombs, and on either end of that, nothing, like just fell off. Another guy who did it all in a short time span, but I mean, good numbers. Never better than 12th in the MVP voting. A 3-time All-Star, primarily DH, which is also going to hurt his cause. So I mean, will he get some votes? I think I agree with you. Yeah, I think some people will vote for him, but he's going to be in that like 15% range, like Pedroia.
Yeah. I think we're with you. We'll see him get 25, 30% maybe on the high side.
And Zobrist didn't get any votes this year. Fly the flags at half-mast.
That's hilarious.
I mean, there were so many guys in the ballot this year that got 0 votes and are gone. And I mean, rightfully so. They shouldn't have been there to begin with. But at the same time, like, it's got to be really cool for these guys. They probably knew going into it they were going to get no votes. But like, how cool is it to see your name on a Hall of Fame ballot?
Yeah. What the criteria is only longevity, right? Like if you've played, is it 10 career seasons? That's the only.
I thought there was something else in terms of like percentile. Like you've got to be in the certain, but maybe not. Maybe it is just longevity.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what makes you eligible for the Hall of Fame or not, but God, this class in 2026 does not look
weak.
Promising.
So weak.
Yeah. So, all right. Is there anything else about the Hall of Fame that you want to touch on before we cover the big news story that happened yesterday?
I mean, I think we beat on the Hall pretty good. I did want to go. I had a question for you, and I'm trying to pull the results back up. So I was looking at the results, and I threw Dustin Pedroia out there because obviously he's a beloved member of the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, is this the best Pedroia is going to do on the ballot?
I think he might climb up a little bit more because what did he end with?
Was he at 15?
Yeah, so he might get 20, 25%, but I just don't think he had the longevity, unfortunately. And I think that's what's going to keep him out.
Yeah,
but
so where did he finish?
With this class coming in, he could.
Oh, sorry, 12%.
Everybody could 12%. But like I said, with this class coming in, he might get a little bit more consideration. But I don't know. It's terrible what happened to him, how he got injured. But that is part of the game. And it sucks, but it is. And I think the realization is Dustin Pedroia is not a Hall of Famer, unfortunately.
He's not. Love him to death, but he's not. So same with David Wright, who got 8%. So the criteria is if you get less than 5%, you fall off the ballot automatically. So the guys that will not be on the ballot again next year, Ian Kinsler, 2.5%, Russell Martin, 2.3%, Brian McCann, 1.8%, Tulo, 1%, Curtis Granderson, 0.8%, Adam Jones, 0.8%, Carlos Gonzalez, 0.5%, Hanley Ramirez, 0%, Fernando Rodney, 0%, Ben Zobrist, 0%. They will all, this was their only season on the ballot. This will be their first and their last.
Yeah.
Pedroia finished at 11.9%, David Wright 8.1%, Torrey Hunter just barely made it at 5.1%. And sadly, and we said it on the air that there's no way he gets in the Hall of Fame. Felix Hernandez at 20.6%.
Yeah, and It's too bad because I think if he's on a different team, it's a completely different story.
Yep. He was, you know, about dominance. I mean, that guy was disgusting, but he was on just bad team after bad team after bad team. And sadly, that team wasted his career. And honestly, he could have left in free agency and he didn't because he wanted to be there. He wanted to be part of rebuilding it.
Yeah.
But they just could never get their act together.
No. Yeah. John, we say it the same exact way.
He got robbed.
Dustin Pedroia was on the way to be one of the best second basemen ever. He won the MVP. Dude played defense out of his mind, always belly up in the infield. And Machado took him out, and he's never been the same since.
Yeah, we view Dustin Pedroia and David Wright the same way. They were on Hall of Fame trajectories, and then their careers got cut short by injuries they couldn't control. David Wright, it was the shoulder and back. For Pedroia, it was the dirty slide, and he just could not seem to come back from the knee injury. Because then, as soon as he did come back, something else would pop up. He just was never the same.
Yeah.
And it's too bad because he was going to be a Hall of Famer, if not for that. And it's still one of the reasons to this day that I still think Manny Machado is one of the dirtiest players in all of baseball because he's done it to several other players too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and King for a reason. King, I mean, Felix Hernandez was must-see TV, and they wasted his career. It's one of the most tragic baseball stories to ever have been written.
Yeah, because we looked up his stats, and his win total is not good, right?
No, it's terrible.
Yeah, 169 and 136.
Right. I mean, you look at his numbers, and you're like 169, 136 with a 3.42 ERA. I mean, granted, he fell apart at the end. Like he was hobbling to the finish line. And COVID, he opted out during COVID, but I think honestly he knew he wasn't going to be able to pitch. So to him, that was kind of an easier exit. Yeah. But like at his prime, 249, 227, 306, 304, 214. And then the last like 3 or 4 seasons of his career were just a disaster.
Yeah. But still, I mean, 250 innings in 2010. Whew. Like, never going to see that number again anytime soon. I mean, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 8 seasons of 200 innings plus in a row.
Yep.
And then the ones on the front end of that were 190 and 191. So, I mean, that's a lot of innings from 06 to 14.
And his record in that time frame, 9-11, 19-5, 13-12, 14-14, 13-9, 12-10, 15-6, 18-9, 11-8. Like the dude couldn't get a break.
You are 13-12 with a 2.27 ERA.
Yep.
That's disgusting.
250 innings pitched. I mean, you faced 1,000 batters. You struck out 232 of them, and you're 13-12 with a 2.27 ERA. Like, that is tragic. You won the Cy Young in that season because you were so good and the whole world realized your team sucked.
Right. Brutal. Man. Yeah, 2 ERA titles too. So 2.27, the 2.14 and 14. Man. Goodness.
Yeah.
7.2 WAR in 2010.
I would love to make a case for Gagne because he's actually the guy that I picked. We had the question of if you need to get 3 outs ever, who would you pick? And I said I would take 2003 Eric Gagne. Unfortunately for him, because he was a converted starter that took too long to get there. If he had not wasted the first 3 years of his career becoming a closer and then hadn't dealt with injuries down the stretch, because he only played 10 seasons, he was on a path where he absolutely would have been, but he fell apart. His body fell apart. In 02, he had 52 saves, 03 he had 55, 04 he had 45. Then he goes 8, 1, 16, 16, 0, 10 and gone. Like his peak was so high. And then the fall off was just as big.
The cliff was pretty massive that he stepped off.
But I would say 03 might be the greatest season a closer's had ever. May not be any closer that's ever been better in a stretch of time than that.
I mean, he probably wasn't as dominant because he had that 82 consecutive save streak. But
Yep.
I mean, K-Rod put up what was it, 62 saves in that one season. That's the record.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gagne won the Cy Young in 2003 because he was like overwhelmingly good.
Yeah. When
I'd love to make a case for Gagne, but the body of work is just too small.
Yeah, too small, and the numbers just aren't there. And as much as you would like to say the Hall of Fame's not a numbers thing, like you have to have certain criteria of numbers to get in. That's just how it is.
Unfortunately for Gagne, 187 saves doesn't cut it. But man, was he fun. 02, 03, 04, he was so fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, they started cracking down on the HGH, and then maybe bang, done. Yeah. Man. All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you guys for chiming in there. We're going to move on and talk about Anthony Santander real quick before we hop off. And then, if the Dodgers make another signing, but we'll get to that in a second.
I'm sure they've already signed one more person since we've been on the air. Probably a Japanese player.
Yeah, it's coming in. So Santander signs with the Blue Jays. So the American League Giants finally land their free agent. 5 years, $92.5 million with an opt-out after 3 years. This one was interesting to me how they structured this, and I'm still kind of confused by it, but the Blue Jays can void his opt-out and make it a 6-year deal, making the total $110 million. So does that really give Santander incentive to play well if the Blue Jays can void his opt-out? That's where I'm kind of confused. That doesn't really give him incentive to play well. If he doesn't like it in Toronto, I would want to opt out. So it's not at the same time, yes, I want to play well to get, the best money I can if I do opt out, but if I play well, I'm going to be stuck here for another 3 years. So I'm confused by it.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. So it gives him an opt-out. So if things aren't going well or he is playing well, he can opt out. Now they can always come in and say, well, we'll tack the 6 year on. And now you're 6 years, 110, which isn't nothing. It gives him another year, gives him another bump, gets him over 100 million, which is where he wanted to be. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword in the sense, if he plays great, they can take free agency away, but at the same time, they've got to buy his free agency from him. And for a guy who's 30, going out 6 years, this very well could be the last contract for him. Getting that thing over 100 million might be really important.
Yeah.
So I think it works both ways. And I think if you're Santander, you go in there assuming you're going to play well, and this is going to end up being a 6-year, $110 million deal. And that's okay because you wanted at least 5 years. You want to break 100 million. They're going to give you both of those. So you probably walk out of there feeling like you won.
Yeah. This is the question though that I have. Is this signing enough to keep Vlad Guerrero in Toronto?
So I read a really interesting article today that said that the Blue Jays are actually calling on Pete Alonso to find out what the price might be, with the thinking being they sign Alonso and trade Vladdy anyways, because Vladdy's given them a deadline of February 18th to come to an agreement on extension, or he won't talk to them anymore. He said, I want this done before the season starts, or I'm done. I'm not talking about it during the season. So the Blue Jays are now feeling the pressure of having to come to agreement on the 18th on a massive extension. This is not small dollars. It's Vladdy Jr. Right. So there's actually some belief that they're going to consider bringing in Pete Alonso and trading him anyways, because they think the asking price for him right now could be so high, because he does want to sign an extension. It sounds like Vladdy wants an extension. He wants to be about market value. He's not looking for anything crazy, and he wants to stay. But they've got a month to figure that out before he goes dark on them. And I don't think the Blue Jays think they can get it done.
Yeah, because in terms of years, what would we be looking at? Probably
you're looking at a 10 or 12 year contract, 11, I'd have to believe. Soto's the same age and just got a 15.
He's 25. Right.
Right. Soto's a year older and just got a 15-year deal. So you're talking this is going to be a big one. And I don't think the Blue Jays are prepared to commit 10, 12, 15 years to Vladdy. And I definitely don't think they can put together that contract in 4 weeks.
No.
So I think there's a scenario where they do end up trading him anyways, just knowing that keeping him is going to be really hard. But back to the Santander deal, keep in mind, this is the same structure Juan Soto has. Juan Soto's a 5-year opt-out. Cohen can buy that opt-out back by making every year after 5,
right.
$55 million per.
Right.
So there's definitely, there's definitely precedent for this. This is what they did with Soto, to try to buy the opt-out back. And it's an incentive, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, McDougal, I don't disagree with you. Yeah, Blue Jays should feel the pressure. They've made a lot of deals on a lot of dumb ones, but if they let Vladdy walk after all this, then they deserve what they get. That's, as Red Sox fans, that's how we felt about the whole Mookie Betts debacle. I mean, I'm still sore about that one. That one hurts to the core.
Yep.
They lowballed Mookie. They just wouldn't go over, and I'm like, why? Why aren't you paying for this guy? Like, you made him. He came up in your system. He's a perennial MVP candidate, just like Vlad Guerrero is. Do what you have to keep him there. I don't understand it.
And I don't know if the Red Sox lowballed him. They offered him 10 years, $300 million. He signed 12 years, 365. I mean, it wasn't like they offered him like 2 nickels and a Nissan. Like, they offered the dude $30 million a year for a decade. So, yes,
I still think that's a low ball offer. I really do. That's just me personally. I mean, listen, I would.
A season is. I mean, now that looks like a friggin' bargain, but even the 12,365 looks like a bargain.
But he was in 2018. You could argue he was the best player in the game.
I would argue today he might still be the best player in the game overall.
Okay, all right then, fine. Then pay him like it. You're not the Tampa Bay Rays, man. You're the Boston freaking Red Sox. Pay him. Blue Jays are out here flaunting that they got all the money in the world that they're looking to spend. So back up the truck to Vladdy's house and dump it all in his living room. Like, what are you waiting for?
Well, and you shouldn't. I mean, Vladdy is, although I would argue that, Vladdy is a big-bodied first baseman. Look at Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's 30 years old, built the same way, can't get a job.
But Vladdy can hit for contact too. That's what
he can.
Pete Alonso can't.
But how well is he going to age? I think that's the question. When you look to sign a guy to a 10, 12, 15-year deal, you're asking, how well is he going to age? Am I going to get 5 good years, 6 good years, 10 good years? Because that makes a difference to what you can afford to pay him. And I don't know that they believe that Vladdy's going to still be a great hitter in 10 years. I don't know why you don't think he would be, but I will say we're looking at Pete Alonso on the decline at 30, another big-bodied first baseman. The comparables for Vladdy aren't good. Look at Miguel Cabrera, broke down last 2 years of that contract. The dude was a singles hitter. It's a tough one. I get the Blue Jays delay,
but Cabrera was still able to change his game to become a contact hitter and a singles hitter. Yeah, and I think Vladdy has that skill at the bat where I don't think Pete Alonso does. Pete Alonso doesn't realize he's at that point in his career. He still thinks he can hit a ball 450 feet, which he can, but he also whiffs 300 times a year. Vlad's career average is a 288. I mean, the dude hits not just bombs.
So follow me here for a second. So 2016 is the last year that Miguel Cabrera hit over 316. The remaining 7 years, he hit 249, 299 in 38 games, 282, 250, 256, 254, and 257. In those 7 years, he combined for 19, 31, 41, 65 home runs in those 7 years. That's what the Blue Jays are afraid of. Age 34 to 40, Miguel Cabrera was effectively a part-time singles hitter, and they paid him a boatload of money to be mediocre.
but
And that's what the Blue Jays are afraid of.
yeah, but you don't pay those big contracts for the last 4 or 5 years of that contract. You pay it for all the production in the first 8 or 9. Like let's call it how it is. That's
You
how
100% do. You are trying to spread the cost over the whole life of the contract, but you also don't want to spend 7 years at the back end getting
right.
a zero WAR player. And
No.
that's what the Tigers got. That's the sad part is this is the comparable that exists. That is the reason the Blue Jays are like, we don't want to go that far.
Yeah. I agree.
Because
Yeah.
Miguel Cabrera he spent 7 years as a broken down league average player.
Yeah. It still hit 3,500
for a lot of freaking money.
Yeah. Yeah, 288 is a new 320. That's just the state of the game. I agree. Agree.
Honestly, it is like 275 is the new 300. Like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
It's sad to say, but a guy hitting 275 is like upper tier.
Yeah. So ultimately, do you think that Guerrero stays in Toronto, or do you think he ends up going?
I think he ends up going. I don't think Toronto has the intestinal fortitude to make that kind of gamble. It's not what they do. But at the same time, who else would? I don't know. Like I don't know who's going to take that kind of gamble on a big body first baseman because the track record ain't good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, say you get John, 10 years, 450. I would do that deal, but I wouldn't do 15 for 600 because I'd be afraid I'd get smoked at the back end of that deal. But 45 million bucks a year for the next 10 years. Yeah. Cause he'd be worth 55 by the end of that contract. So if he's 80% of the player he used to be, you're still making out okay.
But if you're Vladdy, you're also not signing a 10-year 450 because it puts you at 35 and you become a free agent at 35 and you have no market after that.
Yeah, you're looking at Juan Soto, 15 years, 765, going, okay, I want to be close to that because honestly, when it comes as a batter, I'm almost the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's wrong. He's not wrong. I mean, he's not wrong at all.
No.
Vladdy is the same guy. When you look at premium hitters under 30, like it's Soto, it's Vladdy, it's Witt. That's your top 3. Those are the guys. And Tucker. But Tucker's barely on the right side of 30.
Right. Yeah. A 3-team trade would probably be the most likely scenario to get Vladdy out of there, I'd think. To get the right amount of
This is a massive amount of prospects. And honestly, one of the teams Vladdy has expressed interest in coming is Boston. And the Red Sox could do a 1-to-1 and give them a package of prospects because they have them. But that means you're sending Cassis, you're sending Roman Anthony, you're sending Christian Campbell. You're not sending like a couple of guys and some scrubs. Like they are cherry picking the top of the pyramid.
Yeah. As they should.
Yeah. As they should, yeah, because he is arguably a generational talent.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the season he just had this year. 323, 30, and 103. Played 159 games. He's played in 21, he played 161, then he played 160, 156, 159. The guy's out there every day. He's a 363 OBP guy, 288 batting average. He's been over 400 before on the OBP. And he hits 30 plus home runs a year.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's not a Pete Alonso at all because he is an all-around hitter. Dude, straight mashes.
Yep.
And can hit high velocity. We've seen him turn around high velocity. Pete Alonso can't. But yeah, I like you, I would shy away from a 15-year deal, but if that's what it takes to keep him in Toronto, I think you kind of have to do it and suck it up and try to build around him for the rest of his career. It's really the only shot the Blue Jays have, right?
I mean, he's the franchise. Like it is Vladdy. It's Vladdy.
Right.
And so Pete and Vladdy have Pete and Vladdy both came up in 2019. Granted, Pete was 4 years older when he came up.
Yeah.
But they've played the exact same seasons, the exact same number of seasons. And he and Pete and Vladdy are pretty damn close when you look at what they do. So Pete's a slightly lower average, more home runs. Vladdy's higher average, fewer home runs. They're within a couple points of WAR to each other. Vladdy's obviously got more hits because of the higher average, but they're not like way off. But the problem is Pete's 30 already, and Vladdy's 25, about to turn 26.
Yeah,
and that's what's hurting Pete, is that production's good, but he's going to be on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah,
but
crazy.
If you told me that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would come to Boston for a package of prospects and a 10-year, $500 million deal,
bye.
I will meet him in Toronto and drive him down, escort him.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd go up there myself and do it.
Yep. But I think teams, everybody sees the Miguel Cabrera contract and they all just go, we don't want 7 years of an average player at the back end of that.
That's fair.
And that's what scares them off.
Yeah. All right. And then the last thing I got is the Dodgers get Kirby Yates. And I was reading this article. I just thought it was funny, so I had to quote it and put it in here. They're closing in on a deal to reinforce the bullpen from the Los Angeles Times. I'm like, how much more reinforcement do they need?
Do they even have like a roster spot for him? Like,
I mean,
where are these guys going?
They already have 4 legitimate closers in the back of their bullpen. You're going to add Kirby Yates in there. Like, I mean, goodness gracious.
What it tells me is that the fact that they are going to be able to baby the pitching staff to get them through the season. Blake Snell's the 5-inning guy. He's going to stay that way.
Yep.
Ohtani's probably going to become a 5-inning guy. Same with Snell, Glasnow, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki. These are all going to be 5 to 6 inning guys, and then they're just going to roll it to the bullpen and shut teams down and keep these guys as fresh as they can.
And it's kind of, I hate him saying this, but it's pretty smart. They got 8 or 9 starting pitchers. Who says you can't have an 8-man rotation? Right? They go out, throw their 5 innings, take a week and a half off.
Yeah,
that's it. We got enough guys to cover the rest of the games for 2 series.
I think most of your starters would be like, well, geez, I really don't want to do that. Like, I'd like to pitch more frequently to get into a rhythm. But yeah, you can now get creative with how much rest time they have.
Yep.
And freaking Kirby Yates, last year with a 1.17 ERA and 33 saves. Yep. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. And listen, I think this is why they're loading up on the pitching, because they want to find a way to stretch these guys out so they're not pitching so frequently to keep their injuries down. But we've looked at their track record the last few years, and they have, how many starting pitching on the IL? Like, constantly?
Well, look at last year. Kershaw threw 30 innings for you. Glasnow missed the last third of the season in the playoffs. Yamamoto missed 3 months in the middle of the season. Ohtani didn't pitch at all.
Buehler just came back.
Buehler literally came back in June?
Yeah.
May and Gonsolin were both out for the year. They faced their struggles injury wise with the pitching staff. And now they're so damn deep that when guys get hurt, they just roll the next one out. Gonsolin and May are pretty good insurance policies to have when somebody goes down, because you know that Ohtani's going to need a breather at some point. Yamamoto's going to need a breather. Glasnow's going to miss time. Like, these guys are all going to miss time. None of those guys are making 30 starts. No. And that's okay, because you don't expect them to.
No.
So when one of them goes down, you just call up Gonsolin or May and say, okay, it's your spot for the next few weeks. Go.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to find it because I saw it at one point. Like, they had the total number of games missed by everybody. And I think oh no, I thought I had it.
Tony Gonsolin in 2022 was 16-1 with a 2.14 and 130 innings.
Yeah.
And then in 2023, he was 8-5 with a 4.98 in 103 innings because he was dealing with an injury that eventually took him out for the season.
Yeah. Forgot. So Emmett Sheehan their young prospect coming up. Boom, gone. Tommy John,
Yep.
162 out. That was March 19th. River Ryan, Tommy John. So he's out for the next season. August 11th, he went down. Max Muncy on the 80 day on May 17th to August 19th, right? Oblique strain. Dustin May, flexor tendon surgery. So he was out. Kershaw, 103, missed from March 4th to July 25th. You got Brusar Gratterall, missed 112. Gonsolin was out for 162. Connor Brogdon, another guy, April, still no date to be back, 146 games he's missed. I mean, that's wild.
Their pitching staff, they need to be 7 deep because it's going to take 7 guys to make all the starts of a 5-man rotation.
Yep.
Because none of those guys are full season guys.
Yamamoto missed 72 from June 16th to September 10th.
Yeah. I mean, none of these guys are full season guys. Now, Yamamoto, we don't know because it was his first year. And we made the joke back in spring training, like, well, anytime a Japanese player comes over, they miss a bunch of the first season. And sure enough, 2 months later, he's out. Yeah. It just seems to be the way that it goes. But I mean, none of those, if you can get 20 to 25 starts at all those guys, all 7 of them, you're going to be in great shape.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think, what do you think the overall state of baseball is that the Dodgers are doing this? I know we kind of touched a little bit about it on Monday, but how are you feeling as a casual baseball fan? How are you feeling about what the Dodgers are doing? Do you care? Does it bother you? What?
I mean, honestly, so I guess preface everything I say with the Dodgers are not breaking any rules, not doing anything that's against the rules. They're not doing anything I wish my team wasn't doing. But I do believe that, and every time they sign somebody, you can read it all over the MLB board. The casual fan is like, why am I going to bother watching this year? Like, if I'm a Cardinals fan or a Rockies fan or pick any other team, what am I watching for? Like, my team's not going to compete. The league has become so top heavy. It's the Dodgers, the Yankees, and everybody else in that top tier. So the Phillies, the Braves, the Red Sox. You're talking 6 teams. You probably only have 6 teams that have a legitimate shot at the World Series. And I would argue it's probably more like 4. But let's say it's 6. You got 6 teams with a legitimate shot to win the World Series this year. That's a hard way to start the season when there's 30 teams in the league. And I get it. Like the NFL has similar problems where like half the teams, aren't going to compete, but like they're not that far away either.
Right.
Like you've got teams that are not going to make the playoffs next year, but they're going to miss it by like a game. So like it's compelling to watch at least. The average fan is looking across the landscape of baseball right now going, unless I'm a fan of one of those 6 teams, like what am I watching for? My team's got no shot. They won't be close. And if I'm in the front office or an owner of one of those teams, I'm kind of like, why do I bother making any moves? I should just run this thing as efficiently as I can, aim for 500, make a few bucks, sell a few tickets, and call it a day because I can't get to where they're going. Because again, their payroll is now higher than half the revenue of the teams around the league, or higher than half the teams around the league. Like, period, end of story. That right there is the problem you can't solve for. Because they're spending more on players than teams are even making.
Right.
Like they're doing things nobody else can do. And I again, like I hate the argument of, well, everybody else can do it. Well, no, they can't. Like they just can't do it. Right. They can't just go spend, that now with Kirby Yates are going to be what, 400 million plus deferrals. I mean, this will be the most expensive team in baseball history.
Yeah.
And if they don't win, I mean, I don't know how you don't win. Like, I feel like you could just give them the World Series trophy right now and play out the season for the hell of it, because I think that's how you're going to end up finishing this off. But the casual fan is like, I'm out. There's no reason to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I do hate that argument that Dodgers fans are saying. It's like, oh, well, your team can do it too. Like,
nope.
They can to a certain extent. They can't do it to this scale. Like there's no way. Like, oh, sure. Like I'll take my profit and I'll spend it on one guy and then that's my off season. That's it, right? I don't have the income to go out and get another free agent. Like, you can literally pay for every top free agent in this class the way you structured it. And sure, a Royals can do that. A Pirates can do that. But then guess what? When that contract ends and you're paying the deferrals, you're not going to have an organization after that. You're going to be forced to sell. I mean, look at the Padres. They had to borrow money to stay afloat. Right. That's what would happen with all the other 29. Well, not all 29, I should say. But that would help happen to a lot of other teams if they tried to do that.
Yeah. So let's, for shits and giggles, Nick, let's do this. So I've got in front of me, I've got the list of all the revenue by team for 2023. Because keep in mind, 2024 just ended, so we don't know yet. So let's go around baseball real quick. Miami Marlins 295, Oakland Athletics 241, Kansas City Royals 302, Tampa Bay 301, Cincinnati 315, Pittsburgh 309, Cleveland 315, Arizona 314, Detroit 306, Minnesota 342, Colorado 313. I haven't named a team yet that makes more money than the Dodgers spending on players. Milwaukee 320, Baltimore 328, San Diego 345. The Nationals 355, the White Sox 288, Toronto 328, the Mariners 396. I've read 16 teams, and that's the first team that's making more in revenue than the Dodgers are at in payroll, and that's the Mariners at 396. Damn. You got Texas at 425, Houston at 445, St. Louis at 372, they're below. Los Angeles Angels 388, they're below. Braves at 473, Phillies at 458, Mets at 393. They might be below. Giants at 443, Cubs at 506, Red Sox at 500, Dodgers were at 549, but we know that was way higher in 24 because of Ohtani. Yankees at 679. So there are
19 teams you named.
19 teams. Yeah, 19 teams in baseball have less revenue than the Dodgers have payroll.
Wow.
Like that's not a sustainable level. It's not a sustainable platform for teams to survive. And the Mets, this was the year the Mets lost $300 million that Cohen wrote a check for because they burned the Scherzer and Verlander contracts.
Right. Yeah. That is wild. I just look at it from the competitive balance. I said this on Monday, like a league that prides themselves in parity, and baseball itself provides parity. Like, listen, the Dodgers still have to go out and win the games.
Baseball's a wicked, hard, humbling game.
Yeah, and they still do. But when it turns into a dynasty, like, you lose everything you've been building up the last few years, right? You had the World Baseball Classic that came in 23, and everyone was like, we love baseball again. The WBC was electric. Like, we were all in. We were so amped for 2023. Pitch clock changes, all that stuff. Like, everybody is involved. The fans are back. We're selling out ballparks. Like, baseball was in a great state. And then the Dodgers do this, and now you're going to lose all momentum. Yep. That's how I see it. Like, it stinks. Because I also do want to see what that talent does on a baseball field. Because I am going to be tuning into a couple of games just being like, all right, how good are these guys together on the field? Because it's going to be something to watch. Like, this could be the best team ever assembled in the history of Major League Baseball. But what are the repercussions of it? And that's where I'm at as a baseball fan that cares about, yes, I have my favorite team, Boston Red Sox, right? And I love my Arizona Diamondbacks, been following them a ton. But I also care about all the other teams in the league. And I care about the state of baseball. And for me, this is where it hurts because, they're doing this. Like you said, all within the rules.
Yeah, nothing that they're doing is breaking any rules. It's just they've found the loophole and they're using it to their advantage. And you know what? I mean, if you're a Dodgers fan, this is a great time to be alive, to be enjoying what they're doing because they're building an absolutely insane dynasty.
But again,
for the rest of baseball, people are just like, why should I care about baseball? Tell me again why I should watch next year when my team has zero chance.
Yeah. But again, like that deferred money loophole was put in to help the lower market teams
Right.
afford top free agents. That's why that was put in. It wasn't put in for a team that makes $1.2 billion every year to do it and to build a super team. And it's that's what I just hate about it. But
Yep.
I
Yeah,
digress.
well, and the hard part too is that you look what ML, and honestly, like if I'm MLBPA, I'm not necessarily loving this, because of the deferred contracts and the way the contractual games, and guys
Players
that
are
are,
taking less money.
yeah, guys are choosing to ring chase and take less money. So like it's overall not a great story for the MLBPA. But if I'm MLB, I'm so laser focused right now on getting these TV deals right, getting my media rights packages right to take this all out to market. But if you've got 19 teams that suck, it's a hard package to sell.
You have two
Like,
teams without a home. Like
right. Like
you-
if I'm MLB, like if I'm the front office, I'm getting annoyed at this point because like you're making my job harder to promote the entire game when you're just top loading the league.
yeah.
And if I'm Rob Manfred, I need to go sell Major League Baseball to all these potential distribution rights partners, and I need people to buy MLB TV. Well, who the hell in St. Louis is going to buy MLB TV next year? Like, why would they bother? Who the hell in Miami is going to buy MLB TV next year? Who the
Yeah.
hell in Tampa Bay is buying MLB TV next year?
Yeah.
Who in
It's
Pittsburgh's buying MLB TV? Like,
yeah.
nobody. Why would you? There's nothing to watch.
It's like the Dodgers are acting like daddy's not home, so we can do whatever we want because he's so focused on doing all this other stuff that the Dodgers are like, oh, we'll just do whatever we want over here. You know, daddy's away, cat's away, the mice can play. You're right. Like they're so focused on everything else that this is probably just a back burner issue, or they're just going to suck it up and wait for the CBA to expire.
Yeah, which I think is probably the path they're going to go down. They're going to have to, they got to let this play out, and then it's going to be a street fight in 2026 when the CBA comes up, because I think you've got a large portion of owners who are the same ones that are talking about dropping a dime on the Roki Sasaki situation because they're so tired of the Dodgers. You got a large portion of owners sitting here saying, "Tell me again why this is a good investment. Tell me again why I should put my money into a Major League Baseball team."
Yeah.
Like, there's no hopes of me winning. So other than sitting here collecting my revenue share check, like, why would I put a winner out there? Why should I spend my organization's money to bring a couple of players and when it makes no damn difference to where I finish?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And we mentioned in the last show, Bob Nutting, the Pirates had their annual Pirate Fest this past weekend, with players and front office members, and people were asking him, like, how do you compete in this new world? And basically the answer was, we don't. We've got to develop players. We've got to live within our budget. People are screaming to sell the team, and Bob Nutting's like, I ain't selling the team. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like this, I didn't deal this hand. This is the hand I've been dealt as an owner. I'm doing the best I can with it, but I'm not selling the team because you want to go spend $400 million on payroll. Like, I'm not selling. I'm going to collect my revenue share. We're going to live within a budget. We're going to develop players and see what happens. That's all we can do.
And as the commissioner, you should be recognizing that and being like, I need to look out for the other 29. Like, you would rather have 29 teams stable and one not so stable than have one stable and overselling and you're 29 in shambles, which is kind of what you have right now.
Imagine the ratings of baseball if you had 20 teams in the race on September 1st.
Right.
Versus having 20 teams eliminated on September 1st.
Right.
It's the NFL. I mean, people say, well, the NFL doesn't have parity. I mean, it does, because when you look at the standings each year, like, you've got a different batch of teams that are in the playoffs. You got a different batch of teams that are in the championship games. I mean, hell, you got the Washington Redskins in the NFC Championship game. Tell me the last time that happened.
That was a 93.
Right. And you damn near had them playing the Rams. Like, you have a level of parity, but you've also got every team playing from the same platform. Right. So, like, the reason the Chiefs are so good, well, they drafted Patrick Mahomes. Good for them. Yeah. But they have, and they pay him very well for what he does, and they've got to make do with the rest of the roster under the same requirements. They've got the same money to spend. So whoever drafts, develops, and signs the best wins. It's not who can spend the most. It's who actually drafts, signs, and develops the best. So
Yeah.
there is a level of like, how good is my system? How good is my program? How well can I develop players? It's not just a matter of you get a check and you get a check and you get a check and you should all come play here, because you
Right.
can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. 20 teams will be out by the All-Star break this year.
I mean, you could argue you're going to have 10 teams out by April,
Yeah.
that have no chance in hell and are just existing.
But you know how MLB fixes that? We'll just add more teams to the playoffs.
Right.
You know, that will help. Right?
Yep.
That adds
Yep.
to parity.
Yeah, that adds to revenue share, and that adds to league revenues, and it brings in new media markets, but it doesn't change the quality of the game. And that is where MLB, I think that's where MLB is. If I'm MLB, I'd be nervous. That's where they're going to get caught this year, is the fact that the quality of the game is going to take a big step back, because you only have a handful of talented teams and a bunch of other ones that are just existing.
Yeah. I mean, you got the White Sox, you got the Marlins. Those two teams, off the top of my head, are going to be dreadful to get eyeballs on. I don't know how you even get eyeballs on those games. And heaven forbid if they ever play each other. Goodness gracious. 5 people show up to the ballpark for that game. And it's like that. There's, the Rockies, like, yeah, they pull, like the people in Denver love the Rockies. They'll always go to the Rockies games, but they can't compete in that NL West. They can't.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know how they fix it, honestly, at this point. But
I mean, the only way you fix it is you're going to have to go into the next CBA, and if you're going to go down the road of a salary cap, which I think is going to be really hard to do, or a salary floor, which I think is going to be really hard to do, you've got to take that stance and see it through. If you're going to go to a change in the luxury tax calculation and the deferred money calculation, then you've got to take that stance and see it through. Because what ends up happening is that everybody goes into these CBA negotiations with their chest all puffed out with all the things they're going to ask for, and they always walk out with nothing. And we basically continue to play baseball as usual, which was fine until the Dodgers basically said, well, screw this. We're just going to go off the path here. We're going to take this right off the rails and just dial it all in for the next 5 to 10 years and just steamroll the league, which, again, nothing saying they can't do it.
Right.
But if I'm MLB, I'm scared what the next few years is going to look like in terms of ratings and viewership and new eyeballs coming to the game, because there's not going to be much worth watching.
No. And like I said, like, it is hard because they've done so much to get the fans back involved in the game and watching it. And then you got the TV issues, you got the blackout issues, you got the Dodgers issue, you got all of this stuff underlying. You got 2 teams without a stadium. There are a lot of issues. And then Manfred wants to add 2 teams. Like, dude, no. Like, fix this stuff first before you get expansions. Unless you're moving one to Raleigh, then do it. But beside the point. You got to fix these issues before you bring 2 more teams into the league. You have 2 teams without a stadium. How are you going to bring 2 new teams in when you have 2 teams playing at a minor league baseball park? Makes zero sense.
And if I'm Rob Manfred, how am I selling a new expansion organization to new potential owners when I've got this mess with the Dodgers? Like, who's going to step up and say, yeah, I want to put $2 billion down on an MLB team. Let's do it. Here's my $2 billion. Give me a team. I'm going to go spend a bunch of money to get my head kicked in by these guys. I am all in for that.
Right.
Like, how do you sell expansion to new owners in this current climate? Oh, you mean I got to spend $400 million a year to win? Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, and not only that, but the other thing you got to contend with is how many of these teams are going to be in the market in a few years if this doesn't change.
Right.
You may have a slew of owners that go, I'm out, and all of a sudden teams start going up. You're on biz buy sell looking at Major League Baseball teams that are for sale because owners are saying, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to just keep getting up in the morning, spending money to get my head kicked in.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I
think MLB is putting themselves in a very difficult position to grow the game, viewership wise, quality of the game. partnerships, all that stuff. If it's not good, if people aren't watching.
Yeah, I agree.
No, and John, I think baseball's already been struggling with quality of the game to exactly the point you're making. Like the drop and drive approach of let's just wait to hit a home run and tons of strikeouts and innings that are honestly quite boring because you can go a whole inning with no contact because that's just the way the game goes now.
Yeah.
And I do think fans love home runs, that people love to see the showboating and the excitement of the home run, but that can't be the only thing. Like if you're expecting people to keep coming into the game because you're hitting a bunch of home runs and guys are hitting 240 and I just, it's not an entertaining game.
No.
It's the wait around for something to happen game, which nobody's going to want to watch.
Right. So, all right. For being a quick Hall of Fame show, it turned into a nice 2-hour segment. But
you know what? That's people are asking questions in the chat, and we're diving into some stuff and having a little debate, and it's this is fun to just let's just talk baseball. What's going on? What's the topic? Let's dive into it. And
absolutely, we're about a month from pitchers and catchers reporting, so let's go. I mean, as much as we're saying we're not excited for the season, we're excited for the season.
The Dodgers could spend $500 million and go 162-0. I'm sure as hell still watching baseball.
For sure.
I'm not excited about it. Like I'm not excited with what the Dodgers are going to do, but I'm going to watch a ton of games.
Yeah.
I'll be watching the Royals, the Reds, like all those teams. I'll be watching the crap out of that. But I will probably not watch a lot of Dodgers games because I just don't care.
We're still waiting on Alex Bregman news. It says that I just got a report saying that him and the Tigers are at a standstill. So
Tigers don't want to pay him what he wants.
Yep. So I don't know.
The Red Sox have also pushed pause on Bregman. So I think Bregman's in the same boat as Alonso right now, which is I don't actually have any offers in my hand, and it's January 21st.
Crazy.
That's a scary thought that you've got two premier free agents without a home or even an offer.
So that should also put up a red flag in the front office as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have 29 teams. No one out of those 29 teams can make a competitive offer for these guys, but yet the Dodgers can just sit there and take everybody off the market.
It's because they don't want to.
Right. Or they just can't. They can't financially do it.
If I'm the owner of the Tigers, let's say Bregman wants 6 years, 30 million. Just use easy numbers. 6 years, 30 million, 180. If I'm the owner of the Tigers, if I bring Bregman in, do I have a shot against the Dodgers? Nope. Do I have a shot against the Yankees? Probably not. So, why would I spend the money to bring in a player who doesn't change my outcome? I wouldn't. I can play the young rookie for cheap money and get the same outcome, or pay Bregman and still not win. So why bother? And that's the problem that MLB has with the league being so top loaded is teams looking around going, I'd love to bring in Alex Bregman. He'd be huge for our team. We're still not going to win. So why would I spend the money? I'll just keep it.
Right.
And finish in the same third place I was going to finish in anyways. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
If I'm the MLBPA, that's what scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, 1,000%. John, you know what? We might have to put this together for Monday because, we just broke down the Hall of Fame. There might not be a lot of news. This might be my weekend project. So for next Sunday, maybe I'll put this together. Me and Harrison will work on it for sure. This could be a fun one.
Oh man.
But
could be a fun one. I still want manager war, but I know we won't get it.
Manager war. Let's make it. Let's make it up. You're a numbers guy. You can do it.
Yeah, we'll just come up with something.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Do you, Harrison?
No, I think that's it. We're waiting on the last couple of big signings to happen. Pitchers and catchers in 4 or 5 weeks here. Get our first full squad workouts. We are damn close to baseball, and I'm really excited about it.
Yep, I am pumped. So We will be on.
We going to get our free MLB TV again this year, Nick?
I hope so. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it, but it has been the last two years with T-Mobile, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen nothing about it.
Not yet. They'll probably release it in February.
Last year they released it like the day before it went on sale.
Yeah. Oh, do we want to drop our news for what we're planning on doing?
Yeah, throw it in there. Let's do it. Why not?
All right. So Harrison and I are expanding to be a Red Sox focused podcast. We're still going to have the Rounding Third, but we're also going to come out with Rounding Third Boston. So our Boston fans will be able to come on a different night or different podcast altogether. And we're going to talk just strictly Red Sox on that podcast. We are dropping that hopefully probably the week before spring training opens up. So we will have a Rounding Third baseball podcast and we'll have Rounding Third Boston as well. So we'll have two separate podcasts going. We're really excited about this one. Being Red Sox fans growing up, it's going to be fun to talk Red Sox with the Red Sox fans and baseball fans too, if they want to come in and complain about the Red Sox. Listen, we do it enough. So
yes, we're up for anything. Come on in. We'll talk Red Sox specific baseball. Yeah, obviously we are Red Sox fans. That is our team. We spend a lot of time on this show bringing up the Red Sox in particular because we know them so well. So we thought it might be time to branch out and do a Red Sox focused show where we can really dive deep into the Red Sox, who we know so well, and get into it with some Red Sox fans.
Yeah. So that will be dropping pretty soon, next couple of weeks. We're still working on that. Yeah, pretty dang cool and exciting for us to, as we keep building this. And we have all you guys to thank for us being as successful as we are. Like, we would be nothing without you guys coming back week after week and talking baseball with us and the support you've given us. Like, it means so much to us, and we love doing it, and we love hearing from you most of all. So thank you. And yeah, we will be on next Sunday at 8 p.m. And then we'll probably have a time switch because we're not going to compete against the Super Bowl. Like, we're a little smarter than that.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure that's like the most watched thing ever every year. So
yeah, maybe. So the next couple Sundays, I think it is, we'll be on. And then the week after that, we'll switch. But we'll let you know. But we will be on Sunday night at 8 p.m. And keep your eye out. We will be sending out invites for the Rounding Third Boston if you are interested. But until then, make sure that you follow and like it on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram and Rumble. You can also subscribe on YouTube and listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you guys so much for dropping in and sharing your thoughts about the Hall of Fame and the Dodgers and all of that stuff tonight. And we will do it again Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.